Good morning and good afternoon. I guess good afternoon to everybody on the East Coast and good morning to everyone else. My name is Chris McDonald and I'm going to be doing a Timer Tip Tuesday on the CheckIn app label printing. So as per usual, we still have a few people joining us right now. So I'll just do a couple quick housekeeping notes as we're waiting for these last few people to jump in. Number one, this will be recorded, so you will be able to come back pieces of it. So no need to feverishly take notes. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to hop on and ask. There should be a toolbar, I believe it's on your right-hand side of your screen, that you can ask questions. Today's talk is going to be fairly short. So if you have specific questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to give you a little bit more information about some of the things that we've seen with the check-in or with the printers and whatnot as we go along. But the actual setup, etc., of the label printing with the check-in app is fairly simple. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It looks like most people have joined us. So to begin with, this is what one of those label printers looks like. Now, this is the newer version. We'll talk about the two versions we worked with, but this is the QL820 NWB. But with that being said, we're just going to go ahead and jump in. Going to go over very briefly, I promise I'm not going to bore you with what the check-in app is, how to set up the printer, how can you print from the check-in app, some printing options, and then we'll have ample time for questions if you have them. So what is RaceDay check-in? Again, if you're on this, you probably already know about the technology suite. So the check-in app is part of our RaceDay suite wheel right in here. And what it is, it's a free tool that RunSignup came up with to provide for free, easy, simple, streamlined check-in for your events. So if you haven't been using the check-in app, obviously we're going to say do it. I would say that anyway. It's a great tool, but it's super easy for volunteers and novices to use as well. So we've done some webinars recently. You can go and check those out on the new modes that you can use, like results mode, kiosk mode, medical mode. So just within the app itself, there's a lot of development going on. So definitely stay up to date on what all the fun things that you can do with the check-in app. See, told you I wasn't going to bore you with what the check-in app was too much. So we're going to go straight into label printing and how to set it up. So label printing, we set this up initially back in 2022 with the Brother QL810. These were local Wi-Fi devices, and that's how you communicated with your tablets or your phones or what have you. There were a number of people having difficulty setting up these Wi-Fi networks, and Brother came out with a newer one that has Bluetooth connectivity. Now, some of you might be really excited about that, but let's pause because Bluetooth printing is not available on iOS devices. So most people are utilizing iPhones or iPads for check-in. If you are, the Bluetooth function will not work. It will not show up in your AirPrint options because AirPrint on iOS does not support Bluetooth printing. Now, that being said, you might say, well, I don't want to pay the extra money for the 820 over the 810. Well, that's all well and good, but I will say this: having the LCD screen on the printer is a game changer. It allows you to actually see what you're doing. It allows to see if you're having any issues, your connectivity. I mean, I personally have 810s and 820s. We don't use the 810s anymore just because, well, if we don't have to, just because it's so much nicer to be able to see on the screen if it's connected, if it's having any issue or anything like that. So the newer model that we've been testing is the QL820 NWB. Also, I believe the 810 was becoming increasingly harder to find. So for those of you, if you were looking for the 810, you might have to wait weeks or months to get one or two, and you might need 4 or 5. The 820 is its replacement, and it's readily available. So you can find that on the Brother website. It sits around $200, and so yeah, it's a very functional label printer. I think it comes with 2 or 3 different sizes of labels, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So setting up your device, you plug it in and this screen comes up. So you bought one. Now I'm going to kind of go through some very simple steps. They might seem like uber simple, and but like the reality is the printer is going to be something that you're going to need to learn how to use outside of the RunSignup environment. Similar to if you were on a Google website and you wanted to print a web page and you were having printer issues, you likely wouldn't reach out to Google as to why your printer's not working. So what my goal here is to give you a number of fail safes so that you can hopefully figure out, like, read the manual and figure out how it's going to work best for you on if it's a check-in app issue or if it's a printing issue or printer issue. So when you plug it in, you might have to do some additional settings to get the date and time in there. But then once you do, if you hit OK twice, you should be able to print a label. So let's see if this actually works. Yep. So hit it twice. And a couple seconds later, we get today's date printed out. So the only reason for showing you this, again, is the printer physically working. So it seems simple, but it's a great check of, if that function doesn't work, then you probably have an issue with your printer. So once you get that, now you're going to need to set up a couple other settings. And I've tried to go through each one of these very simply. And again, you're going to be able to kind of review these. But once you hit menu, you can go in and you can go up and down. You have a number of different settings in here. But number 5 is your WLAN, which is your wireless local area network. And so you're going to want to make sure that is turned on. So you're going to go in, you're going to go to WLAN on off, and you're going to turn it on. So once you have that on, you're going to go to network mode. And so this is how you're actually connecting. Now, this does not, because I have mine set up this way, does not mean you have to set yours up this way. You can set yours up with a WPS PIN code. You can also press the button on your wireless router. But most people are more familiar with selecting their Wi-Fi signal that they're planning on connecting to, or and then going in. So you're basically going to go into network mode, select infra direct mode, and then within the infra manual settings, you can, and it went away before I could take a picture, unfortunately, but it gives you all the wireless connections that you could possibly have. And so when you select one, which is just after this screen, it allows you to put in your password for your network. Once you type that in and hit enter, you're going to go in, and it's going to go into a connecting sequence, which looks almost the same. And then once it's connected, it tells you connected, and you can hit OK. So at this point, the printer is connected to your local area network once this goes to connected. So the next step is downloading this iPrint and Label app. Now again, this might seem like a whole lot of steps, but again, we're making sure that you understand how to use your printer. You might want to ask yourself early on in this process of, have you ever printed anything directly from your iPad or your iPhone or your Android tablet? And the answer is no. You might need to play around with some of these settings a little bit further. But So we've already tested to make sure, okay, the printer physically prints. Well, now we need to see if your wireless device can physically print to the to the label printer. And so this is where this app comes in. So again, we've specifically been testing these brother printers. If you're using a different model, you'll need to do testing on your own. But why are you doing this? It's going to allow you to test printing from your mobile device outside of the CheckIn app. Why is this important? Because this tells you that your device is able to communicate with the printer. If you're unable to print through the app, you are not going to be able to print from RaceDay CheckIn. So again, it's not a mandatory thing that you set all this up. However, this is a tool that you should use to double check that it's similar to, okay, you're in the office, Wi-Fi printing, you're always using Wi-Fi printing or printing over the network. And you're like, man, nothing's working. I don't understand why. Most of you, your knee-jerk reaction, well, let's just go get a USB cable and see if I can print directly to it. So I take the wireless piece out so that you're trying to problem solve here. This is one of those problem solving techniques that you'll be able to use. So you'll download this app, you'll open it up, and it'll bring up these templates. Now, you don't have to do anything fancy in here. You're quite literally using the app to make sure that you can print. So you open the app and you click on whatever you want to. Again, I have 1.4 inch labels in here. So I'm going to click on that I want to print this one, and then I'm going to hit print, and it's going to bring up, do I want to find my printers? So this is where your printer should show up. If you're not seeing your printer showing up, then you might not both be on the same networks. Now, again, this is a network printer. So if you are on cellular and your printer is on the local area network, they're not going to see each other. They're on two different networks. So you will need to make sure your device is on the same network. Now, for Bluetooth printing, it's slightly different. Bluetooth printing, you're going to be able to see it directly. You're going to, turn Bluetooth on and go into your Bluetooth devices, find it, select it like you would, a wireless mouse, wireless keyboard, headphones, that kind of thing. And again, that is only for Android devices. So if you go into here, you see your printer, great step, and you hit print, and you get Mike Barkley, who apparently now is a super famous person since we've all printed labels with his name on it. If that pops out, everything should be golden for you to go in and start setting up the RaceDay CheckIn app for printing. So again, you can open up the app, you can go buy one of these printers, you can open up the app, you can try to get it to work, but if you contact us about it working, we're going to ask you about these things. So just be aware of that. So, all right, well, we've gotten it to print. So now how are we getting it to print from the CheckIn app? So while you're in your event, you're going to click on the gear icon up here. You're going to go into race configurations, and you're going to pick the configuration you want to use. So we're going to pick 2023. So we click on 2023. This is what pops up, and you will see an option right here for label printing. And by the way, if you haven't created a configuration, you should create a configuration. That is definitely something that you'll want to do. So you see how I'm not using a default configuration, I'm using custom configurations that I've made. So 2023 config, and I'm going to click on label printing. So once I click on label printing, it opens up, and now I can enable label printing. So when I click enable label printing, it scales up and starts, or it opens up another page, gives me all of these other options. So, and this is not, it does not stop at delete row. So before I go any further though, this first thing, so again, like if I go back one, the first thing at the very top of here, once you enable label printing, is label size. It's very, very important that you set your label size correctly. So these, if you have one of these printers, you'll notice when you change out the roll or when you put in the roll for the first time, it's got a little holder on the roll. Well, the foot of that holder has like a hole sequence in it. So it's almost like a pinout for, and basically what that does is it's telling the printer what size label. So you do need to use the right holder in there, but it's telling the printer what size label is in there. So for most of you that are used to smaller labels, you're used to a 1 by or 1.1 by 3.5, the DK1201. So you can see when you first open it up, its default is the 1208. If you try to print on either one, the 810 or the 820, and you've got the 1201 labels in there, and you try to print with the 1208 setting, it's going to fail. It's not going to do much. If you've got the 810, it's only going to show a blinking red light. But the 820, it's just going to fail. It's not going to print anything out. It's not going to like queue up. It's not going to print out later. It's just not going to print. So keep that in mind. So for iOS, I put this in here because for all users, you need to set these two settings correctly. So go into label size and select the right label size, right? Now, Android users, you have an additional step. And that is when you're in here, and we didn't have the printer hooked up to the Android device when we did this, but you can see paper size up here. So once the printer's on and you have it locked in and you select the printer on your Android device, you are going to be able to select the paper size. And that paper size also must match what is in the reel. So it's imperative for you, all of you, to make sure that these are set correctly. Now, if you're using a 1208, if you're using a 2205, all that's fine. You just have to make sure it's set up correctly. Otherwise, it's going to fail. So once you're in there, you can scroll down a little bit more. You can add rows. You can do a whole lot of other things. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you're going to select your default printer. And when you do that on iOS devices, it's going to open up the printers available in AirPrint, and you're going to select that printer. So you select a specific printer that you want to use if you have more than one. And then also, so at this point, it's selected. Now, there are some other things that you can do. So within the CheckIn app under My Device Settings in the Settings tab, so we were under Race Configurations, but if we go back to My Device Settings, you can also set to auto print after review. And so basically what that's doing is the printer will auto spit one out after you complete the check-in process, which is what most of you are going for. Now, I'll pause at this point and say that if you've used these before, you'll notice that printing is not instantaneous, similar to when you print at home on a normal printer. So it's not going to print. As soon as you hit print, you're not going to see it bloop, print out. Now, I can go back to that initial page where I hit OK twice, and you can see how quickly it prints one label. It's very, very fast. It takes less than a second to print the label. However, for the data to come through the device, it can take 4 seconds, 5 seconds. So don't just sit there and hit print over and over and over again. Excuse me. It will print. On Bluetooth, it seems to initiate the printing significantly faster than Wi-Fi. However, the printing process itself over Bluetooth seems to be a little bit slower. So the end result is exactly the same with both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi just seems to stall for a second before it actually prints. So some print options you have. So you do have the ability to change the orientation if you want to print, like information this way. You can do that. Obviously, we've gone with label size. You can change that. And then it gives you the rows. So you can select different pieces. You can actually click on these little dots off to the side, and you from there can get to font size. You can go to font style. So each one of these is for a text field, and so if you click into this, you can edit the font size, and you only have 3 options on font size: small, medium, and large. And then you can change the font style to normal or bold. So this is a large bold. All the rest of these are medium and normal. And then you can also, within these 3 little dots, select for each one of these specifically. You can align them separately. So there's a left, center, right, and justify. So this one and this one are center aligned. These 2 are left aligned, and these 2 are right aligned. So you can really play out how you want this to look in whatever fashion you want to. You can also add rows. So you can add new rows. You can also collapse all rows to hide them. And then you can click the button to use the default layout. And this at the bottom is where we selected that default printer earlier. We can also go in and select overall font size for everything, and your row spacing and adjustment up and down. So let's say we want this to go down some. We can do a vertical adjustment and bring this down so that this whole thing moves down on the label. And you can also add in whatever other options you want on here. There's just about every option that you can see within the CheckIn app is available on these drop downs to put on the label. So if you have custom questions, if you have, I think add-ons are on there as well, all emergency contact info, giveaway, anything that is available within the CheckIn app is available to print out on these labels. And again, you can change the spacing in between these if you want this to be spaced out further. But it's a very, very intuitive thing once you get in here and start playing around with it. And then you'll save these settings. And if you set it to print, auto print when after review, as soon as you check somebody in, it'll print one out for you. So like I said, it's not a long one today, but I did want to go through all of that, and I'm sure there are some questions. So let's, not sure if there's anything that needs to be floated out for everybody.
So Chris, I just wanted to underline a couple things that you went over. It's a really excellent job today, just for all the people on the webinar, for the recording especially. The point that Chris made about having the wrong media and just the media mismatch, we'll call it media mismatch, it definitely causes a lot of issues with these brother printers, especially the older style one. And you're just going to get that blinking red light and you're just not knowing what's going on and everything. And sometimes you actually have to reboot the whole printer. So that's something, just lessons learned, which we're trying to share with you guys out there and ladies. If you're having problems and you definitely realize that your media is mismatched. And also, if you're using, some of these printers come with what they call not monochrome, but actual colored labels. Those will also not work with our app. So we're really looking for just straight black and white monochrome. And if you got any kind of media as a mismatch, it's just going to be a headache for you, and you just have to reboot the printer, make sure you got the right media in there. That's one thing I wanted to highlight from our lessons learned. The other thing I wanted to share real quickly, just again, as Chris has really shared, it's so nice to have that printer with a screen. But if you are buying the printers that don't have the screen, let me just make this presenter real quick. I'll show you this real quick. Let's see, stuff. Make myself presenter real quick. Can you see my screen, Chris?
Yes.
Okay, so again, the older printer, you're going to be using this thing called the printer setting tool. You'll be needing to come in here. You'll have to have that USB cable connected. You'll go underneath communication settings here and just need to really learn this tool and come in and go under the wireless and change your wireless settings here. And the only reason why I want to mention this is the other thing we've run into a lot is, you know, you're using these tablets and these Apple devices and Chrome devices. These devices are really smart in terms of trying to find the most powerful connection. And so they're going to be constantly switching on you, and especially if you've been using these devices for different things, and you know, you may have it connecting to different networks at your home and stuff. Just be aware of the fact that these things are going to switch on you, and you're just like, what is going on? So just keep checking your wireless settings on your device. As Chris said, and he underlined so importantly, in order for printing to work, both the tablet, phone, and the printer need to be on the same network. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And so just understand these devices are going to give you switching networks on you based upon connectivity, and something they'd be looking for.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
And I've seen a couple of questions asked multiple times now that I'm going through the questions. So a number of folks have asked, can this be used as a results printer? And the answer to that is no, result printing is not supported. This is for printing names at packet pickup. And then a number of you asked about that one. And some people asked about the, you know, what's the use case of this? And the real thing here is for those of you that have gone to dynamic assignment of bibs, and you'll know it has sped things up. You know, you don't have as many you're not labeling things in advance. You don't have to have, you know, tons and tons of extras. However, the one kind of headache that you've had with dynamic is, what if a husband and wife come and pick up at the same time? And now, how do you know that if you hand them the bibs, they're gonna come back and wear the right bibs tomorrow? And so most people are taking a pen and they're writing, you know, like John and Susan on the back of the bibs, and XL and small as well, if they're getting a shirt somewhere else. Well, this alleviates that need. And so some people are creating separate lines at larger events where individual check-ins, they're not using label printers because they don't need to. However, they are using it for group check-in or bundled check-in. So anytime someone is coming up and picking up multiples, then they have separate lines for that because they know it's going to go a little bit slower, and they utilize the printers so that they can really quickly get all of that information onto the bib, so that when they hand all of them out, they don't have to, you know, have anything special. They can hand them all out at the same time with labels on there. And it's a very similar experience as to, you know, someone that raced 10 years ago that didn't use dynamic assignment. And I know we've heard previously with, you know, hey, what's the bandwidth of this? How many people can you get through? So what I'm going to say there is it's very, very important. I mean, can you connect multiple devices to one printer? Yes. Should you? No. Best practices are going to be a one-to-one relationship. Now, again, you absolutely can connect more than one, but it's a lot easier to troubleshoot if you're only using one-to-one. How many people, you know, can you check in with this? I believe Drumstick, over the course of this is a Thanksgiving Day event, checked in almost 12,500 people in a day using the printing functions. So it worked quite well. They didn't have any issues, but I will say that they tested in advance. I know you guys are sick of hearing me say that, but they didn't just show up and plug it in. You know, they double checked, triple checked how their network was going to interact with all of the devices. They practiced, and then they rolled it out. So don't just show up. As we always say, don't just show up to an event and and expect everything to work, you do need to kind of practice this stuff in advance. So I don't know. I think most of the questions that came through while I was saying that had to do with exactly that thing. Some people seem to not have any issues connecting multiple devices to one printer. Again, I'm saying you can do it. My suggestion would be a one-to-one. Let's see. You cannot use results. So again, we will say again, it does not support results. So results are not a field that you can find. So similar to the CheckIn app, you cannot see results in the CheckIn app in terms of the actual check-in process. Yes, you can see it in the result kiosk side of things, but not in the CheckIn app. Let's see. How many printers and how long was packet pickup open for that big event? I'm not sure. It was an all-day packet pickup, so I would guess 8 to 10 hours of packet pickup. And I would be surprised if that number was lower than 15. So I would expect for that quantity, that throughput, to be, a minimum of 15, maybe as high as 20. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other. Let's see. Specs on the newer model printer. You can run. I mean, these printers are not super heavy on power draw, so you can absolutely run them on external battery packs. I mean, you need to obviously do the math and figure out how long you're going to be out there and what the actual draw is or power consumption is per hour, and then do that back math to make sure that you're gonna have enough power all day. But it absolutely you're able to run these on battery banks. Estimated cost per label for printing. It's kind of dependent on how cheap you find the label printer and how cheap you find the labels. You do not have to buy everything from its original source. There's plenty of places that sell aftermarket labels for cheaper. There's plenty of places that, well, I guess the printer itself, you'd need to amortize across all of your events and all your athletes. But I mean, you're looking at a couple $100, which depending on how many you need. So cost per label, I mean, I'd be surprised if it's more than a penny or two after you purchase the device and print out a few hundred or a few thousand.
Yeah, Chris, I did a quick Amazon search and they sell like a 4,000 label, like 10 roll pack for an off-brand one for $30, which is under a cent. It's like 5 cents.
That lines up with exactly what I would expect. I mean, I've purchased them from Brother. I've purchased them from Amazon. All of them seem to work the same. I've not personally run into any issues with the non-Brother labels thus far. All right. Well, with that, I will say thank you all for joining today. Again, this was recorded. It will be sent out, and as we upgrade and update and things like that, we'll obviously keep you all informed if there are changes to how we're currently doing things. But this is a very viable resource for you in regards to labeling live on site. So hope you all have a great rest of your day, and best of luck with your races this weekend. Talk to you soon.
Are these less wrinkly than they were?
Yeah, I ironed them at lunch.
You bring an iron to the office?
Yeah, I had an iron in the back of my car. Someone grabbed it.
Is that the weirdest thing you've done in the office?
Well, I wouldn't say the weirdest thing.
Did he say anything to you while you were ironing them?
Yeah, he said, like and subscribe. because we post videos every weekday at 8 a.m. And then he screamed because I ironed his face or something.